Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org with a video tutorial for the new Boston. In this video we're going to look at the jQuery change event handler. Now in previous parts of the tutorial set we've looked at using the click event handler, for example. However, if we have elements on a page such as a drop down list, you'll want to use the change event handler to actually allow this event to take place, or the function inside of this event to take place when a new value has been selected, for example. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and build a drop down list. So I'm going to use the select element and I'm going to give this an ID of list. Now inside of here I want to choose some options that will be displayed in the list, and I'm going to give each of them a value. So the first value is going to be 1, and I'll just write 1 in here, which is the text displayed to the user. This is the value that's returned. I'll then go ahead and just copy and paste this down and change these values. So we've got 1, 2 and 3, and we'll just change these accordingly. So let's go over to our page and refresh. You can see we've now got a drop down box with 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so what we want to do now is create a page, a JavaScript page that we can include, that's going to include the event handler for when this list changes, i.e. when someone clicks the drop down list and then selects a new value. So whenever they click on a new value here, that's classed as the element changing. So let's go ahead and create our new file. I'm going to place this inside my jQuery folder with jQuery.js, and I'm going to call this change.js. Okay, so now I'm going to need to include this change.js file on my page. So I'm going to say script type is equal to text/JavaScript. The source is going to be js/change.js, and then I'll end the script there. Okay, so now that we've done that, we should have functionality from this change.js file, and we can create an event handler for when this list changes. So we're also going to go down here and create a span, and that's going to be the feedback from what's been selected. So I'm going to call this list feedback. So inside this span we're going to create some text that lets the user know what they've selected from the list. Now this isn't just useful for relaying what the user selected. Obviously the user knows what they've selected, but let's say you wanted to show another drop down list when a user had selected a particular element in here, or a particular option from this list. We can do that as well. We're not going to be looking in this tutorial because I'm just demonstrating the event handler. However, it is a possibility, and you will see the methods that you can use to create this for yourself. So for now we're just displaying the feedback from the user. So let's go ahead and reference the list. That would be hash list. Now we need to create the event handler, and this is change. So it's the $ inside brackets. We textually represent or refer to this list using a hash. Then we say dot change, and we have parentheses here and then a semicolon. Inside of here we need to create a function with our block, which will then pull down, and we can start writing our code in here. Now let's go ahead and just alert something out, and that's going to be changed. Now what's going to happen is when we actually change the list option, so when we choose a different option in the list, we'll get an alert box to show that this has worked. It's important that we test that it has worked before we continue with the rest of our code. So I'm clicking on this but nothing's happening. However, when I select a different option from the list, you'll see that we get this alert box saying changed as we specified. So now that we know it works, we can actually retrieve the value from here and then relay it to the user. So I'm going to create a new var called list value, and that's going to be equal to, again we're referencing list up here, so we do exactly the same thing, hash list, and then dot val, which we've spoken about in some of the other parts of the tutorial. This here is going to retrieve the value here. Okay, so for each element, or for each option. Okay, so now that we've got this list value, we can then go ahead and actually relay this to the user. So inside of, by referencing another element, which is list feedback, we can say dot HTML, and then we can insert the list value. So now when we've when jQuery has picked up on this change, we grab the current value and then we relay it back to the user using the HTML function, which will just put some a value inside this list feedback span. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. In fact, beforehand, I think we'll just add some more text to here. So you have selected. There we are. So you have selected a space and appending on the list value. Okay. Let's put a colon in there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and test this. So I'm going to choose 2, and it says you have selected 2. Now I'm going to choose 3. You have selected 3, and then 1. You have selected 1. So you can see with this change event handler, we can extremely easily check for the change of different elements. Now this doesn't have to just be used for lists, it can be used for a variety of elements, input fields, text areas, you know, as many elements as you can think that would have some use in this event handler. So it's not just limited to this select option element, or the select option, the select element. It can be applied to a variety of other elements as well.